I did. Good afternoon, Scott. So good to see you as always. You know, it's a very interesting time, and I oftentimes agree with my friend over there, Mr. Jimmy, as well as Pete. And candidly, less bad is good, as our friend Tom Lee would love to say. Right now, we are in a very interesting time where we're seeing consumer balance sheets extremely strong, which obviously is two-thirds of GDP. We're seeing, though, simultaneously a slowing in that real-time live data around electronics and other large purchases like cars, right? So it's kind of like, what do you do here? I personally am adding to positions I've been strong in and been a holder of for a while. I did add to block. I do think it's undervalued, both from a fundamental perspective as well as a sentiment perspective, and we have to think about how that's occurring. Same thing with Pete. I own Goldman Sachs, which I'm sure we're going to talk about financials as we kick off this earnings season, but I am adding to quality names that will weather this storm over the long term, because the uncertainty in the short term is just something that I don't have a crystal ball to predict.
You know, I find that you guys are making a lot of moves all of a sudden. You know, Joe, for example, you bought Chipotle back, right? You used to own it. You bought it back. Now, you trimmed AbbVie to make that purchase. But talk me through the reasoning of why Chipotle stood out to you right now that you need to buy it. And then we're going to talk about another one, too. But give me that one first.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I agree with Scott's comments. I don't think we are in the initial stages of a bear market. So I'm looking for opportunities. I agree with what Courtney's saying, opportunities where you could find quality. And I also agree with the near term is still very clouded. We had that break below the 50-day moving average yesterday, and you had a technical sell-off. So in the near term, I don't know the market direction. What happened this morning is AbbVie is a stock that I have owned since November of last year. I purchased it at 115. You know that I study momentum. You had 3 consecutive days where AbbVie experienced what we call range expansion. That means, Scott, on a daily basis, the range is much larger than what you've witnessed over the last 2 years. And the stock went up 8% during that period. Well, that was quickly negated. It was completely eliminated by 3 negative range expansion days. So I had to take half that position off. I had funds. I studied my portfolio. I said, where am I from a strategic perspective missing something? And it's towards growth. And I wanted growth at a reasonable value. I looked at consumer discretionary. I've listened a lot to Brian Nichols' comments over the last several months. And I think Chipotle, again, citing what Courtney said, really less bad is good. Chipotle is actually able to endure this inflationary environment. Fast casual seems to have some resiliency. There's some brand recognition. And there's the efficiency of the way management is navigating this inflationary process. So I took the funds from AbbVie, very happily put them into Chipotle, and it elevates my exposure to growth, which is something I was looking to do.
Now, you also bought Palo Alto, which, by the way, I mean, Dan Ives is probably jumping up and down cheering at this because he's called this a table pounder. I've had him on Overtime where he has talked about that. Why Palo Alto right now?
First of all, I own Fortinet in Joe T. So I do have limited exposure to the theme of cybersecurity. But Dan Ives, Josh Brown, Jim Cramer, they have all been talking about it. And if I forgot anyone, I apologize. But cybersecurity is such a dominant theme in 2022. Palo Alto is a way to add to that cybersecurity exposure. Listen, if you want faster revenue growth and higher beta exposure, and if the market from here is going to appreciate significantly, CrowdStrike is the better trade. But I kind of wanted to trade down a little in the beta exposure. I wanted to get growth at more of a reasonable price. That's what Palo Alto will deliver for you. It's got to focus on the firewall. I'm very happy to own it here. I think it breaks out significantly beyond $700.